I spent a lot of time studying the route. I've flown in the area quite a lot. I spent a lot of time looking at the maps, planning on the XE planners to see where I have to put the turn points in order to make it an FAI triangle. Generally, you need east faces in the morning, you need west faces in the afternoon, and here in New Zealand you get strong sea breezes, so you kind of want to avoid places that have the strong sea breeze. If you start from Coronet, you've got to push all the way out to the divide and put the turn point in the dart, on the other side of the dart. The first crux is getting over the Richardson range that sits at about 2,500 meters. And there's a few ways through, so we spent a bit of time in those early season triangles trying to figure out the best way through. Over Loch Nagar, Centaur Peak sort of area seemed to work the best. Starting from the beginning of this season, I started flying the route, incrementally increasing the turn points with Leo. So it's definitely easier as a team. You get to see more of what's going on in the air and you fly faster, it's better. And it's more satisfying because you're doing it with a mate. It's not as simple as one person following the other, right? You have to follow each other and you have to stick together. If one person leaves the climb and goes on glide, you need to leave the climb and go on glide. Having good communication is really key, but yeah, it takes two to tango. It's not just one person following the other, it's a team thing. We were making really good progress. So we started with 115. That was good, and then we did 130 and then 160, and then the next step's 200. What was really important was trying to figure out the first part of the route, running all those east faces to the first turn point, and we basically just kept pushing that turn point further and further out until eventually we got it to where it needed to be for the 200.
It's out to the west coast over there, I can see the ocean. Wow. I've never flown this side before. Did you? You don't want to land in there.
From then on to the second turn point, it's generally pretty fast flying. It's the middle of the day. You're flying over the Cascade Saddle and around and into the Wilkin. That's fairly straightforward, but then it's the hardest part is getting back to Coronet Peak. The day that is dying, the thermals are getting weaker and the sea breeze is increasing. And if you want to close a triangle at Coronet Peak, you might be landing in 45k lee side at Coronet, which is challenging and dangerous.
How do you determine it's the right weather?
So there's a bunch of ways I look at, but the weather forecasting apps, looking on SkySight and MetView and Windy, just to determine that the wind is light enough. It's a circuit, so you need to get back to the start again, so you need light winds at all altitudes, high cloud base and strong thermals because you need to fly fast. If it's a good day, looks like strong thermals and light winds on SkySight and on Windy, then yeah, it's good to go.
I'm on the way to Coronet Peak again. It is the 9th of January, so one of the longer days of the year, and it looks like a cracker. Super high thermals, up to 10.5, 11,000 feet in the shot over. Light winds, so we're going to try a triangle. I've set a pretty optimistic task at 200 kilometers because why not? You got to try. I don't know if it's going to be possible to do it, but I'm going to give it a really good crack. I know the route pretty well. I've flown the line a bunch of times this season in different sort of variations, so I know the route really well, and today looks possible. The only tricky thing one of the tricky things at the end of the day is sea breeze coming into Queenstown, fairly strong. So closing at the end of the day could be quite challenging, but we'll give it a good crack, see how it goes, and hopefully a big flight, and yeah, enjoy the video, and if you like it, hit the subscribe button. What is it? Oh yeah. 5 to 10, Julia's excited.
So the task I set was from Coronet Peak over the Richardsons and out to the main divide. I'd then have to fly back up the Dart, over the Cascade Saddle, around Rob Roy Peak and out to the Wilkin. Then I'd have to start the final, most difficult leg, which would be back over into the Matuki-Tuki, over Glendew Bay. I'd then have to navigate over the Roses Saddle and to the back of Coronet Peak.
All right, we are on the Harris, just coming up on Advanced Peak. It's 11 o'clock, 6,500 feet, so it's looking good. We're gonna keep pushing up the Harris. Hopefully it keeps working all the way up. Got Thomas above me. Julia's just behind. Looking good.
So there was actually a pretty good group of us, about 6 or 7, that started around the same time, which meant that we could fly quite fast along this first section.
All right, so just approaching Churchill. Probably got one more climb and then I'll go over the top of it, and there's usually a pretty good climb there. And then this is the first crux, which is crossing the shot over. It's a pretty long glide over to Mount Campbell. So I'll try and get as high as I can on Church. And I think the others will be following.
This is Church Hill, which is actually one of the more reliable thermals in the shot over, and it's ideal because we wanted to get as high as possible before crossing the shot over, where we'd have to arrive on Mount Campbell. But we got up to about 8,000 feet and arrived with good height onto Campbell.
Thomas, Julia down there, and Eddie. Okay, I'm on Centaur Peaks. Gonna cross the Richardson. I'm at 8,000. I can climb a bit higher here, then I can cut the corner.
This is the line through the Richardson that me and Leo flew a number of times earlier in the season, and it takes you past Loch Nagar, and it's just spectacular up here. This day was certainly one of the best days of the season, with really strong thermals and not much wind at all. Once we get to the end here on Cleft Peak, we could fly into the Dart and along these north faces without having to do much turning at all. And then the idea was to get as high as you can here on Mount Head before crossing the Dart and heading for the main divide.
Fuck yeah!
Here I'm crossing the Dart and heading for the turnpoint, which is on the beautiful glaciated McBride Peaks. Once I get the turnpoint, I can see over to the west coast.
The Forgotten River, on the main divide. Climb up to Cloud here. Thomas has done it. And that's 10 point done.
After tagging the turnpoint, I headed back to the north faces of the Dart, which I'd just flown. These were working super well, and I managed to climb all the way back up to ridge height quite quickly.
Across the Dart. I've seen the others are down there, they're climbing up now. Back on the north faces. Came in below 5,000 feet, which wasn't particularly comfortable, but I'd left the climb because I don't think I need to turn on this ridge. I might do it at the end just before the crossing, but I'm just going to try and fly straight. Keep the glider open, point it in the direction I want to go.
So here I'm just flying straight along these north faces, not really having to do much turning because it's working so well. And this is where I make my first mistake. I decide to go straight for the saddle and skip this ridge on the right and just head straight, and I was expecting to get a climb and it just didn't work. All of the others went to the right first and they got the climb and flew straight over the top of me.
Need to make it over that pass. I don't know if I'm going to make it. This.
Here you can see I didn't make it through the pass, which meant that I'd have to backtrack and go around and through the Cascade Saddle. This ultimately cost me about 20 minutes.
Alright, made it over to the Cascade Saddle. Now I'm going to run these north faces, see if I can catch up with the others. I can see they're just over near Shark's Tooth. And then it will be crossing over to Triple Peak. and then flying through the minaret and the Albert Burn and turning at the Vulcan. I just lost about 20 minutes by having to go around Anstead, so I need to do a bit of catching up.
So this was actually the second mistake that I made, which was deciding to fly these north faces over the Shotover Saddle, where I should have gone straight over the top of Rob Roy Peak. You can see the clouds forming to the left. The other guys flew up the East Matuki, and that also proved much faster than my chosen route through the minarets.
I'm crossing the minaret burn and the turnpoint straight ahead. There's Mount Albert over there. It's working pretty well in here, and there's a cloud above the turnpoint, so should be good. It's 4:30, so I'm not doing bad for time. It's probably another 3 hours of flying left, and I've got to take the turnpoint and make it home. It's about 70 kilometers to go, maybe 80, so 25 k's an hour is not impossible, so I'm going to stick to the task. Yeah, I've lost the others. I think they went up the East Matuki. I haven't seen them for ages. Maybe I'll find them at this turnpoint. Epic! What a day! I need to pick up the speed now because I'm behind schedule.
For those that are unfamiliar with the area, this is the Albert Burn and the Minaret Burn. This is probably one of the deeper parts of the route, and if you screw up and you had to get out on foot, it would probably take you the best part of 2 days to walk out.
Alright, I'm about to tag the turnpoint, 10.2, and then I'm looking forward to turning around and trying to get home. Got to fly back across the minaret again, so a bit of a pickle, but hopefully it works. I've just got to push out a wee bit here just to make the task 200. And I'm about to ding it. When I ding it, I'm going to turn. And nearly ding. Done.
This section of the flight was just spectacular this time of day. Flying along the East Matuki, I caught up with Kinga and Mickey, and you can see Mount Aspiring in the background there. We continued to fly together along this ridgeline all the way to the Buchanans before Glendu Bay.
Alright, I'm coming to the end of the Buchanans, and I could really do with a nice high climb here because I've got a really long crossing to get to the other side. I'm really hoping I can get one here. Let's see. Woo! 8 hours, it's 6:30. Need to do another 45 k's to get back.
This part of the flight was especially challenging. It wasn't really working very well. The sun's getting lower, so I found a climb on Glendu Hill and it was really weak, so I just stuck with it and it got me just high enough that I could make the glide over towards the unnamed peak in the Motatapu.
Well, I got as high as I could on Glendu Hill, which is about 4,700 feet, and I'm making a punt for one of these. Probably going to go for the unnamed one. I can, otherwise I could slide off onto the big pyramid. Pretty desperate, pretty low. I'm at 5,200 feet. I'm on Knuckle Peak, just rounding it now. Oh, if I can get high on Knuckle and glide over Rose's Saddle, then I'd at least be able to close the triangle. But I need to climb on Soho if I want to get the record. Oh my god! I'm at 7,000 feet. I'm pointed for Rose's Saddle. If I make it over, I'll probably close. I'm running out of day. Just trying to get as high as I can. 8 o'clock. It's going to be really hard to close. Got a headwind, sea breeze is in, no thermals left really. It's going to be challenging, I can't really see well. This is fucked, I can't see anything, the sun's just right in my eyes. I've got 500 meters to close, 200 meters. I'm going to end up landing back here. That's alright, I think I might have the record. Alright, that'll do. Now I just need to try and put it in safely.
This part of the flight was the most nerve-wracking. I've been flying for 10 hours, I'm pretty tired, and there's 45 km/h wind coming over the top of Coronet Peak, making it extremely hard to get on the ground. It's just converging around the back and going up on Vanguard. I'm doing spirals and wing overs to try and get on the floor, eventually flying down the valley, doing more spirals and putting it in fairly high on Vanguard just to get out the air.
Unbelievable, what a day, holy shit. So I closed, I don't know if I got the record or not, it was pretty close. I flew at the back of Coronet Peak and the sea breeze is coming over and I couldn't get down, like it was, and there's no wind here now, but like out in the middle of the valley it's just going up, and I pretty much crashed into that rock and smashed my sunnies, and unbelievable. So I'm gonna pack up now and I'm gonna walk down to the Skipper's Road. All right, so I'm walking out. It's gonna be an hour and a half walk. It's gonna get dark soon, but I'm still pretty stoked. Still pretty stoked. It's had an epic day. This is New Zealand style cross-country flying when you've still got to walk out even when you close.
Is that Benjamin Callett? Yeah. Wow.
That was bro. I like.
Wow. Look at him. Everyone's impressed with you.
Yeah.
Did you do 200?
Nah.
How big?
Well, I think 197. Gnarly, man. Like the last move, just flying. So like, as you're flying at Coronet at the end of the day, you've got the sun on the ridge.
Yeah.
So you can't see anything.
Right.
8:30, man. You can't see anything.
Yeah, you're flying pretty late.
And you're flying into 40 k's of lee side.
Yeah.
And then it was windy as and I couldn't get down.
It was definitely pretty gnarly.
Oh, bro.
Do you like pizza and beer?
Yeah. Oh, you're a legend.
I know.
I just need to climb this fence.